Good Monday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Conversation Daily News. Glad you all could be with us. Well, it's a brand new day. It's a brand new week, which means it's a brand new opportunity for you to do something amazing, and it all begins today. Of course, you have your news headlines coming up on this Monday. Have a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. If you guys have your copy, it's week number 45. We're going into today. And in today's Entertainment Spotlight, you've heard my conversation with author Maggie Giles. Maggie joined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, just last week to discuss her new book, Twisted, and believe me, it is just that. You don't want to miss that conversation. Enjoy our broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Monday headlines. In international news, Blinken shuttles from the West Bank to Iraq, trying to contain the fallout from the Israel-Hamas war. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken took his diplomatic push on the Israel-Hamas war to the occupied West Bank on Sunday, trying to reassure the Palestinian president that the Biden administration was intensifying efforts to ease the plight of Gaza's civilians and insisting the Palestinians must have a main say in whatever comes next for the territory after the conflict. Blinken later flew to Baghdad for a talk with the Iraqi prime minister as American forces in the region face a surge of attacks by Iranian allied militias in Iraq and elsewhere. U.S. forces shot down another one-way attack drone Sunday that was targeting American and coalition troops near their base in neighboring Syria, a U.S. official said. President Joe Biden's top diplomat traveled through the West Bank city of Ramallah in an armored motorcade and under tight security. It was his third day of shuttle diplomacy aimed at trying to limit the destabilizing regional fallout from the war and overcome what has been Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's refusal to consider a U.S. proposal for intermittent pauses in its attack on Hamas long enough to rush vital aid to Gaza's citizens. Netanyahu had pushed back Friday against the U.S. pressure to start implementing pauses in the fighting, saying there will be no temporary ceasefire until Hamas releases some 240 foreign hostages it is holding. This is a process, Blinken told reporters on the matter Sunday. Israel has raised important questions about how humanitarian pauses would work. We've got to answer those questions, including how pauses would affect Hamas hostages. We're working on exactly that, he said. The Biden administration, while remaining the strongest backer of Israel's military response to Hamas attacks on October the 7th, is increasingly seeking to use its influence with Israel to temper the effect of Israel's weeks of complete siege and near around-the-clock air, ground, and sea assaults in Gaza, home to 2.3 million civilians. In national news, now that we have fallen back, the Associated Press explores how daylight saving time can seriously affect your health. Brunch dates and flag football games might have been easier to get on this past Sunday when phone grace early risers with an extra hour of sleep before alarm clocks go off. The downside, says the Associated Press? This week, across most of the U.S., the sun will set well before many folks step a foot outside the office, leaving them to run errands or take walks in utter darkness. Daylight savings time is out and standard time is in and will last until March 10th of 2024. Many Americans are already sleep deprived, and a change in time messes with sleep schedules even more, says one doctor who's a sleep researcher at the Northwestern Medicine in Chicago. Although she says falling back and gaining an extra hour is generally easier on the body than springing forward and losing one. Chronic sleep deprivation can increase levels of stress hormones that boost heart rate and blood pressure, and of chemicals that trigger inflammation, research suggests. In more national news, Supreme Court will rule on ban on rapid-fire gun bump stocks used in the Las Vegas mass shooting. The Supreme Court agreed on last Friday to decide whether a Trump-era ban on bump stocks, the gun attachments that allow semi-automatic weapons to fire rapidly like machine guns, violates the law. The justices will hear arguments early next year over a regulation put in place by the Justice Department after a mass shooting in Las Vegas in 2017. In business news, Wall Street closes its best week of the year with even more gains. Wall Street steamrolled even higher last Friday as it closed out its best week in nearly a year, says the Associated Press. The S&P 500 climbed 41 points, or 0.9%, to 4,358 and rose every day of the week. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 222 points, or 0.7%, to 34,061, and the Nasdaq Composite jumped 184 points, or 1.4%, to 13,478. And finally, in entertainment news, moviegoers had many options to choose from over the weekend. The video game adaptation Five Nights at Freddy's repeated its first-place ranking followed by Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, still going strong. That made the top 5 movies over the weekend. Number 1, Five Nights at Freddy's with $19 million. Number 2, Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour with $14 million. Number 3, Killers of the Flower Moon with $7 million. Number 4, Priscilla with $5 million. And number 5, Radical with $3 million. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's now time for a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. Enjoy. Good Monday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Words I Choose to Live By. Being successful today is all about taking advantage of every opportunity. The decision begins right now. Have an amazing Monday. Author Maggie Giles is featured in today's Entertainment Spotlight. Stay with us. You're listening to Conversation Daily News. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with the Entertainment Spotlight. Author Maggie Giles joined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to discuss her new book, Twisted. Here's a bit of our conversation. Maggie, thank you again for the time. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat.
Well, Maggie, I'm excited too, but I have to tell you have made this very, very difficult for me, Maggie. I have to say because I really need a post-show to go along with this show because there's so much I can't talk about with our audience because a lot of them have not read the book yet. But definitely after they do, I think we're going to have you back, Maggie. I think that's what's going to have to happen here. After people have gotten a chance to read it and they're discussing the themes, we'll definitely have to have you back. But I want to talk about this moment for you. What has it been like for you to see the way that people are responding to Twisted?
You know what? It's been such an amazing experience. Twisted is my second book. I had my debut come out last year. And I can honestly say that this experience with this book has been totally different. Just even seeing my platform having grown and the different reception. My first book was a little more of a women's fiction suspense. So this one's very heavy thriller. So it's been a bit of a different reception, but really neat to kind of see everyone's excitement. And some people kind of go, I don't really know what happened, but I was so intrigued and it was so amazing. And it's a response I've kind of been really excited to see.
To have your first book come out and you know, of course, people enjoy it, but now this book is out and people are talking. It has to be a great feeling. When you were writing it, Maggie, did it feel different for you? Did it feel like something special?
So I actually wrote this book before my first one, which is very common. You'll find that a lot with authors, that their debut novel is usually not the first novel they've written. But I will say I had so much fun with this book. I honestly put it aside quite a few years ago when I wasn't really getting the response that I wanted from it. I was having trouble finding an agent. And so when I picked up my publisher and they asked me what I'd like my second book to be, I kind of pitched them Twisted and they're like, okay, let's take a look. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you for opportunity in this edition of Conversation Daily News. Be back together on tomorrow's more news, message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By, and of course your Entertainment Spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversation Daily News today. Now let's go make today amazing. Take care.